Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Teshuvah Bible Studies. My name is Van, and we're doing part 3 of this series where we're looking at the word dam and also looking at the connection between Passover, between Yeshua, Jesus Christ, between the word blood and the ancient meaning of the word in Hebrew. So, on part 1, we talked about the word dam itself and the definition. Part 2, we looked at the symbolism of the letter mem. And now we're going to look at the symbolism of Dalet. And finally, at the end, we're going to look at all the connection between those four things. So without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the word dam again, which is the Hebrew for blood, and how each one of these letters also give us some significant meaning about the word and gives us clues on how all these things are connected. So on the word dam, which is here in red on the screen, is made up of the Dalet and the mem. And on the last video, we talked about the mem and its symbolism. And this time, we're going to look at the meaning of the letter Dalet. So Dalet is, again, the symbol for the Dalet is this flap that goes over the door of a tent. So if you imagine a tent, like even if it's like a teepee, an Indian tent, right? It would be like a triangle shaped tent, and then the door would be covered with this flap that they put over it. It wasn't like doors like we have today, like with hinges and everything else, right? They lived in tents. They were nomadic people, and the door was just this fabric that flopped over the opening, and it looked something like that, and that's why they drew it this way, right? And then the modern symbol for the Dalet is this right here in green, and the word itself, Dalet, means door. Right here, I have the word in blue. It's actually Dalet because that's the noun form of the word, and it means door. It literally means door, and it is the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it also has the number 4 as its numeric value, and the number 4 also has significant symbology and meaning. So we're going to talk about all these things and how they connect to the word dam and makes that word make more sense. So what does a door have to do with blood, right? Again, we talked about how the word blood in Hebrew is actually a liquid that opens a door or a portal to the spiritual realm. And that's why when we see movies, or even like when we watch, unfortunately, the people who participated in these occult things, they know this probably more than most, right? That there's always a blood sacrifice requirement to open up a doorway in the spiritual realm and to summon these creatures, these entities, into the physical world. So if you're going to summon a demon or summon some kind of entity or whatever you want to call it, like a god with small g, whether you know it or not, unfortunately, you're messing with something in the spiritual realm, which is actually kind of dangerous. Most of the time, those spirits, they lie and they're deceiving people, and they actually are demons. So when we make these, open up these portals into the spiritual realm through blood sacrifice, we are actually inviting these entities to come into the physical realm and do something in the physical realm. But it always requires blood sacrifice, and usually it requires blood sacrifice of an innocent being. So the Dalet in the word dam symbolizes a door or a portal that is open through these sacrifice. And again, I'm gonna show you guys all this. If you just Google it, you will see that everything that I'm telling you here can be confirmed, easily confirmed. And there's actually a lot more that we could talk about here, but we're gonna keep it simple and connected to the word blood. We want to make sure it's connected to the word blood. So again, the Dalet is the fourth letter of the alphabet. So it's and it has It means the door. It means is also a symbol for the poor. But again, this is not. We want to connect this to the word blood. So the is a door, dangle, because again, like I was saying, the door on a tent basically dangles to open or close, right? So those are the connections that we're making here while we're talking about the word dam, which is blood, to connection to the spiritual realm. It's a doorway to the spiritual realm. So let's see. Uh, what I would like to talk about here, speaking about doors, right? It is also the fourth commandment, right? So it's the number 4, the fourth commandment. And that's something that I wanted to bring up because I think it's very interesting and is also relevant, is that the fourth commandment, as we see in scriptures, is keeping Shabbat, keeping the Sabbath, right? So the fourth commandment is remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. And I think that's fascinating because when we look at the 10 commandments, the first 3 commandments speak things that are directly related to Adonai, is to keep his name holy, to not have any other gods, so you don't have idolatry, to not make idols. It's all connected to Elohim. It's all connected to above, to things that are above. So we have the first 3 commands that talks about things that are from above. And then the 5th commandment to the 10th commandment are all talking about earthly relationships, earthly things. Don't lie, don't steal, don't covet your neighbor. So it's all it's like a horizontal commands that are basically between you and other humans. Now, the 4th command is the only one that is basically connecting heaven and earth, is connecting you to God. So again, it's kind of like a doorway. It's kind of like a portal as well, right? And that's why I think it's important. And it is actually, unfortunately, the command that most of us neglect. Most Christians, most believers neglect the 4th commandment. We say it is something that has been done away with. It's from the past. But once you understand the significance of Shabbat and you understand how much of a blessing it is to keep the Sabbath, right? Not in a legalistic way, not to gain or earn salvation, but as a moment in time that Adonai specified himself. He said it, right? He made it holy, and he made it holy in creation, right? So you can't even say, oh, it's one of the commands that is obsolete. No, he made the Sabbath holy during creation, before giving any of the commands, before talking to Moses, before Noah, before everything. It's right in creation. He made Sabbath holy. He made the 7th day holy. So it is a sign and it is a connection between mankind and himself. And I do believe there's a special doorway or a special opening during this time where we have a stronger connection to Adonai and where he honors us. And the reason we say Shabbat Shalom is because this is the time where we receive our Shabbat, because Shabbat, or the Sabbath, right? So it doesn't even mean Saturday. It doesn't mean Saturday. It means rest. It's the day that we get restored. It's the day we get rest and we get connected directly to Adonai. And it just so happened to be the 4th commandment, right? It just so happens to be the door, the connection between heaven and earth. And we see that again. We see that if you look it up, you can see that the 4th commandment is remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And this is a connection, right, between heaven and earth. It's basically, it is the connection between humans and God. So I thought it would be very important to bring that up because I think that it is a blessing. And for those who don't participate in this, they're actually losing out. They're missing out. Ever since I started keeping the Sabbath and remembering this day and honoring God in this day, my life has been so richly blessed. And I feel this stronger connection with Adonai. So remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's the God's word, not my words, right? So back to the door, right? We see this connection here, even in even in the verse that we read to begin with in Passover, right? Because God told us to put the blood of the lamb on the doorposts. So there's a connection about, again, the blood, the door, and salvation, right? Salvation from death is all symbolic, right? All those things were done in ancient times as symbolism for us today. So we see this connection between the blood, we see this connection between the door, and the significance of all these things. And that's why I put that image of the door here with the blood in it, because again, it paints this picture, right? Because it says basically it's saying that the blood on the door will be a sign. And again, in Hebrew, it's so fascinating. It's so beautiful how everything connects, because the word sign in Hebrew, it's oath, which is also the word for a word or a symbol or a letter. So the letter itself is an oath, right? So this in Hebrew, each one of these symbols here is also an oath, because it's a sign, it's a symbol, and it's a letter. So I think it's fascinating how all these connections come through in the Hebrew. When you're reading in the Hebrew, you see that God said to put a sign, to put an oath over the door itself. So it's beautiful and fascinating how all these things connect. So that's kind of it for the door, at least until we make all the connection on the next video, on the last video of the study, where we're going to talk about the connection between the door, between the blood, and between the Passover, and between salvation. We're going to bring it all back together and talk about how all these things are connected and significant for us believers in Jesus Christ, right? So my studies, the reason I find them fascinating and beautiful is because once we learn all these connections, it just strengthens our faith. It makes our faith stronger in Yeshua, in Jesus Christ. And that's what I hope to solidify here in this channel and help you come closer to Yeshua, come closer to God. So I see you guys on the fourth part. Lehitraot, shalom. Don't forget to like, to subscribe so that you can get notified when we post the fourth and final study. Shalom. Lehitraot.